Hey guys, this is Tin Tim. I am alive and well. Hopefully some people missed me. I don't know if anyone missed me, but it would be nice if some people missed me. But I thought I would come back, given that we just saw one of the most fucking insane and crazy episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, of RuPaul's fucking Drag Race in general, ever, right this week. De La Christ, right? So you might notice there's some background noise. I'm like watching the Oscars because I waited too long to get all my shit done this weekend. So I know I'm like recording a video and watching the Oscars simultaneously. Whatever. Anyway, the look that I'm in is actually for I was working on a book trailer for my latest book, which is about to come out, is sort of in pre-order, but I'll get my own copies of it in person next week. But it's called the full name is The full name is Strike a Prose, Memoirs of a Lit Diva Extraordinaire. I think some of you who've been watching my shit for a while may have heard me talk about how my drag started. I mean, not even drag really. Early on, it was more of just sort of like an eyeliner, guyliner, glam masculinity thing, Bowie, whatever. Started in the literary community when I was doing live readings, and I wanted the live readings to be more interesting, so I would wear costumes. And then eventually I started gluing sequins to my face. And then eventually I was like, I want to actually learn makeup craft, and eventually that led to drag, and that led to Tin Tim, right? But in the course of that, like some people were like, well, why are you doing this? Like, what is this about? What the hell? So I started writing this book, which is about my rise and fall, sort of as literature's first pop star or superstar. So it sort of like appropriates diva narratives from a lot of other famous women and kind of makes them my own. But anyway, in order to promote the book and create my book trailer, I wanted to kind of go back to that early look, but like elevate it with hopefully a little bit of the drag craft I learned during the Tin Tim days. But anyway, I'm sorry I disappeared for so long. Like, it was never my intention to, be gone for that long. If you would like to order Strike a Prose, Memoirs of a Lit Diva Extraordinaire, you can go to www.litdivaextraordinaire.com, and that will redirect you to the publisher's website. I'll also put the links. How's this working? Links down below. The little camera thing's upside down, so I'm like acting like a weather person, like wah wah wah. I'll put the link down below also in the description. But while I was out, while we were away from each other, I also published 2 other books that came out in late 2016. This will be the end of my little updatey self-promo-y part before we get to Drag Race. But the first one, this is my fiction collection. This is a dance movie, which you can go to thisisadancemovie.com, same thing, it'll take you to the publisher's website, and then there's options of how to order it. This is a fiction collection. If you like sex, if you like queer sex, if you like pop culture, I think that you will enjoy this. It has everything from a blogger who seduces celebrities and writes about it to a dude who has sex with young fathers in the prairie and holds their babies while they're fucking. It has an appearance by the great star of yesteryear, Taylor Lautner. So there's that one. And then the other book that came out in 2016, this is my debut poetry chapbook called Become On Your Face. Faith. This is probably the draggiest, but it is super weird. But again, you can go to Become On Your Face. It's spelled Y-R instead of Y-O-U-R, but either spelling will, I bought both URLs. So again, those will take you to the website for the publisher and you can order. Yeah. That's enough about me. Now let's talk about RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay, so, RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 3. What the hell? So this week was crazy. BenDeLaCreme, removed herself, eliminated herself from the competition. So, those of you who all were around back during my Season 6 videos may remember me talking about I've always felt, for whatever reason, a very strong emotional connection with BenDeLaCreme. like, I don't know, like an inspiration to me, but it's not necessarily, like, it's not necessarily aesthetic, right? Because there's nothing about the kind of drag I do that I look to her and sort of see, oh, you know, that's the kind of queen I want to be. It's something else that's much more of, it helps me understand what that emotional thing is when some fans are in their hardcore standing, like, oh, that's what that's about. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, what is the source of that? And I thought, with all this time, it might have dissipated or gone away since I hadn't necessarily paid attention to, like, her whole career. But when the season started, like, totally came back, totally still there. And I think what it is like what I would call, like, the nature of her ambition. Although I think she's clearly, like, a superstar level talent. I've never gotten the sense that she sort of has that, like, superstar constitution, right? Like, that is not what she necessarily wants for herself in her career, even before this decision, right? Like, I think, you know, she wants to make the art that she wants to make on her own terms, sort of curate community around drag as an art form, and, like, have a value system that puts other people in communities first, right? And so I think I've like, related to all of that. At the same time, so, like, one of my friend Vanessa said earlier this week in a Facebook comment thread, BenDeLaCreme's fatal flaw is that she wants to be liked, right? And it made me think about how, actually what I said to her in the discussion was, sometimes I think there's, like, this very fine line between the part of wanting to be liked that can be really problematic, right? That's all about ego and, like, reflecting well on you. You know, not wanting to make waves with people, which I think can be, you know, troubling, right? Versus really having, like, a value system where you're about putting community before sort of self-promotion and winning. And there are these times when it's hard to tell which of those things is really motivating you. And that's what I said. And, like, that I see that in her, and I was saying how much I relate to that. And what's funny is I said that, and then immediately later I watched her exit interview Doodad on the YouTube, and she said almost something about herself that was almost exactly, or just very similar to that, and kind of, like, confirmed what I had said about this, like, tension between, like, you know, yes, I want to be respected or liked by others. That is one of the motivations, but also I want to, you know, my values are about how I prioritize community, right? So, reality television. I think part of what we enjoy so much about a show like RuPaul's Drag Race, and a lot of other reality television, especially of the competition variety, is that it's kind of just, like, the tension between how much agency or control the players, the contestants, the personalities, the characters, whatever, have over their own fate is, there's always the tension between that, you know, believing, like, I can decide how I'm represented somehow, versus, you know, the control of both the rules of the game, but also, like, the sort of way in which they are produced and sort of manipulated psychologically to, you know, behave in certain ways, and then the editing later, right? I think that, like, you know, the tension between those things is, like, this microcosm of, like, what we all experience, like, as people, whether that's on some, like, philosophical level, right, of, like, free will versus determinism or something, some, like, Western philosophical argument, la-da-da-da-da, or whether that's, you know, the, what we sort of, like, experience as you know, people who occupy different, you know, marginalized identities, or are you know, part of, like, resistance or protest-based social movements, where it's this thing of, like, you know, how much agency do you have to defy the rules of the system, work outside the system, versus how much do you need to work within it. And I think, you know, I'm positing that one of the reasons we find reality television so, like, addictive and compelling is because it's, like, it takes that and, like, heightens it and, like, shows it to you in this, like, sort of weekly way. But this comes back around to something else that I have sort of feel like I've identified with about BenDeLaCreme's sort of worldview or values, or, like, whatever, what have you, right? Is that I have never been, I've never liked the union the coming together, whatever, of like art and competition. It has just never felt like it fit my energy, my like constitution, whatever, what have you. Like I don't like what when I'm making things, when I'm creating, I like De La said, I want to be, if I'm in competition with anyone, like I want to be in competition with myself, right? You are measuring yourself against either your own vision or the work's vision for itself, like what the work is telling you that it wants to become, and you want to measure against that. Anytime that I find that I like start, comparing my work to other people's, first of all, it's like apples and oranges, but like second of all, it's like a death spiral of, emotional awfulness, right? Where, it becomes jealousy, anger, resentment, but I just think it can be really toxic, right? And so, for me, it's like watching RuPaul's Drag Race. There's always this, like, on the one hand, the competition is what makes it entertaining. And it's sheer entertainment value, but it's also all that other stuff I said about reality TV and like why it's so compelling to us, why we can't take our eyes off of it. But then there's this other side that's just like, this is gross and it's exploitative. And I think it wouldn't be such a problem if it weren't, and the recent thing around trans issues and inclusion brings this out again, and if I have time I'll get to that later in the video. But if it weren't one of the only, if not the only ways for a drag performer, entertainer, which is, such a marginal occupation in a way, right? And such an impossible one, if not, such a difficult one, if not totally impossible to, like, really make a sustainable living in. This is one of the only ways to, like, to really, like, elevate your platform with it, is to get cast on this show. And I think it gives it so much, maybe too much power, right? So that it becomes harder to stomach those toxic parts of it, because it's sort of like, in order to have this kind of career, you have to sign control. These contestants have to sign control over how they're represented and who they are to this thing in some way. And all of this is sort of a very long-winded way of coming around to the fact that my initial reaction to De La's decision was, wow, here is someone who found a way to break the game, right? To play the game on her own terms. What was I talking about? I'm like all over the fucking map with this. This is not how you should like structure an argument or talk ever in your life. Just whoever thought that I was smart or articulate, now I think I'm like fully exposed. So anyway, that was my first reaction to De La's decision, right? Was, here is someone who has taken the game into her own hands and broken it, right? That's so... My initial reaction was, wow, that's like really inspiring. I spent some time thinking about it and sort of listening also to like a lot of friends on social media. And so I think that one of the issues that needs to be talked about is how the various privileges that De La inhabits enabled her to make this decision in a way that not only have minimal consequences, but that also elevates her even further in the estimation of most fans. But I think, you have to ask, how does the capacity to say, first of all, to do that well that many weeks in a row, and then to say, fuck you to this competition, to reject the terms of this competition, and to be lauded for that, to be uplifted further, how is that enabled by the privileges that she has? And Kennedy Davenport said it, very straight up, very straightforward this week in the viewing party at Roscoe's in Chicago. And she was like, as an African-American queen, I have to, she said, pursue the win if I want to continue to maintain the respective viewers, get the bookings, have the kind of career that I want. And then, related to that, there is this issue of, for, the three remaining queens who are black, including the ones who I think are especially well set up for the win, like Shangela, how how much, you know, are they going to have the racism of the fan base directed at them to say, oh, well, you know, you only got this win because Dela removed herself, right? That kind of bullshit. Despite the fact that it's like, you know, any one of these 5 are talented enough to get this win, right? Like, that's not, you know. So let's talk about Kennedy Davenport, right? So here is this queen of tremendous talent, long-standing career in the industry, won multiple competitions, came in 4th on her season of Drag Race, but as she says, you know, in that video from Roscoe's this week, hasn't gotten the you know, the kinds of like opportunities for bookings, for international travel that some of the less successful within the context of the competition on the show white queens have gotten, right? And so I feel like when you look at Kennedy, there are like sort of 2 issues around race and racism, right? Like, one is this script, which I think I've talked about, you know, years ago in earlier videos, which got brought up again. I don't know if y'all have read the article that was in, fuck, what publication is it? I'll try to find the link and put it below, but the article, the title was RuPaul's Drag Race Has a Race Problem, and I wish that I knew the author because I would like to be citing them. I talked about the same issue, that I remember talking about in one of my videos a long time ago, which is that this, the way that like the show has like often reinforced this dichotomy between white queens as creative, sort of boundary breaking, like artists, white artistry and creativity, versus, you know, queens of color as sort of like pageant girls, showgirls, entertainers. And I think you see that narrative sort of projected onto Kennedy, right? It's always about like, what a tremendous dancer and lip syncer and entertainer she is. And you saw it this season, right? Like the fact that she actually did excel in a lot of the other skills and challenges in her season. The fact that she improv'd and won the Snatch Game gets forgotten from that narrative, right? Like that moment when Ross was like, why didn't I think of you as a comedy queen? And Rue was like, well, you know, she did win Snatch Game in her season. And, you know, it's that, how that sort of like racialized narrative obscures that, right? And I think we have seen that narrative start to get disrupted a little more in the last few seasons, which I know I haven't been around to talk about. But you know, with Bob the Drag Queen, with Shea Coulee, with Valentina, right? Like queens of color, and Nina Bonita Brown have been on the show and have in one way or another, I think, sort of challenged that usual narrative with the kind of drag that they do. By the way, if you have not read my friend Vanessa Villarreal's essay about Valentina, I believe it was in BuzzFeed, but I definitely recommend checking that out, looking for it. So it's like the versatility of Kennedy's skills, right, get sort of obscured by that sort of like bullshit racialized narrative about what it is that that black pageant queens produce as artists or can, right? Sorry, I got distracted because Jimmy Kimmel was talking about Barbra Streisand's cloned dogs, which is like one of my obsessions of the week. By the way, when I die, I hope that I am reincarnated as one of Barbra Streisand's cloned dogs, because I think my greatest dream is to lose my individuality and forfeit my distinctive and singular identity into a sort of mass, collective, Borg-like consciousness of diva worship, and to just be a copy of a copy of a copy of a Barbara beloved creature. What the fuck am I talking about? So the second thing I think that Kennedy has to deal with is like the way that we treat black women, black queens, black folks who sort of you know, like don't meet our expectation around the kind of like being sort of cheerful or easygoing, or like the quote unquote sort of like magical Negro sort of stereotype. And so because I think her personality has like more of an edge to it, that, you know, she catches shit from people, and really racist shit. So this is the other thing we need to talk about, right? Is that there's, you know, the racialization of representations on the show and sort of like how race is represented on the show, and then there's the fucking just racist shit that fans pull and their reactions to it, which has been escalating along with the sort of escalating popularity. I mean, I've really come to admire Kennedy even more than I did during her season. Just the what she puts up with that she shouldn't have to, right? Like, I was really struck this week when Milk came back by the amount of emotional labor work that Kennedy was putting in to managing Milk's fragility. And Lord, like, Milk has driven me crazy this season. I have to say, like, I thought she should have been out the first episode and then again the second episode. And when did she finally leave? Was it like the fourth? Literally every week I thought she should have been at the bottom, but that's fine, like, whatever. But yeah, just like textbook white fragility, I thought, and that you could almost see sort of the gears turning with Kennedy of like, if I say everything that I really think here, like the kind of blowback I'm gonna have to deal with from viewers, like, so let me be diplomatic. But I thought she assumed far more responsibility for that situation that she should have had to, and for managing Milk's emotions. But anyway, De-La, race. What else do you want to talk about this season? All this said, the All-Stars version of RuPaul's Drag Race has ended up being my favorite version of Drag Race since they changed the format second season. Like, one of the reasons I was disappointed that I wasn't making the videos regularly or like around to make the videos was that I thought that, you know, the second season of All-Stars was like the best season ever of any Drag Race, of either Drag Race, and that I was sort of disappointed that I wasn't here, you know, around here to talk about it with you all. It's kind of that thing of like, you know, how in like the second season or like the third season of a scripted series, the show will finally start to hit its stride, and it's like because the characters are established, the relationships are established, so now we can like really tell stories. That's how it feels with All Stars, right? Because the queens are coming in as known quantities, and it plays upon and really embraces you know, what's known about them already by the public and the careers they started to build, and like the fact that they already know each other, and kind of like just turns the screws in and makes it like, you know, as compelling as possible. And I feel like when this season has worked, and it hasn't been as as exciting as the second one, I don't know. I feel like I've heard more people complaining about being bored for whatever reason. I still think it's more consistently compelling than the regular format of the series, just because, you know, even when you have challenge performances that are kind of like, nah, like, I think, for instance, we had one of maybe the worst Snatch Games ever, maybe not the worst ever, but definitely one of them, with this All-Stars group, and then even despite that, the way that Shangela sort of played the reality television game with that sort of toying with everyone about whether she was gonna like eliminate Trixie, and that combined with the like the double win, still like had me like enough on the edge of my seat while watching, right? Like, I just think I almost wish that every season of Drag Race could be the All-Stars season. So hopefully, you know, I've been wanting to come back and talk more, like this whole season. Every week I'm like, this week I'll make my video, this week I'll make a video, and then I never do. And sort of knowing, because there were some spoilers, knowing this was going to be a big week, I was like, finally like, okay, if this shit with De-La actually happens, this is the week I'm going to make my video. And I know that I've been like blah 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 babble, and I don't think that I've been as coherent as I used to be, in part because it's been so long, and like I don't know how to fucking do this anymore. But hopefully this won't be the last time you hear from me. I may not always have a face, but I wanna come back again, and I wanna connect with you all again, because I miss this, and I miss the nice thing is we're going straight through into season 10 here. So if I can't get it done for All Stars, there's still potential to do it for this next group of queens. Which, by the way, I watched all those intro videos and was riveted, and really excited about the season 10 cast. So maybe that can be a topic for a different video. I'm kind of like done talking right now. I don't think I can do anything. I don't think I can say anything more tonight, but thanks you all for, if any of you are still with me, and came back to watch this after all this time, thanks so much. And that's all for now. Mwah.